Today's MMA T Company fight preview is with Tyler Funky Bones Jones. Tyler's going to be fighting for Fight Card Entertainment on July 24th out in Rosemont. He'll be taking on Slate Passmore. Tyler, thanks for joining us today. You got about 2 weeks till your fight. So, how are things going? How are you feeling?
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited to get back in there. Things are going well. It's a weird situation where I was supposed to fight at the end of June. So I was still in camp mode. That fight fell through. So it's been like a very weird camp. I just kind of stayed in shape and at this point just kind of taking care of the body and making sure that I'm not broken come fight night.
And it's a weird feeling, right? Because you were scheduled to fight June 5th, now you're fighting July 24th. So, like you said, there's no real time to take time off or really not be in the gym between those two scheduled fights. So, talk to me about how you switched up your training if you did at all for this camp to keep yourself kind of prime and peaking for the fight that's about 6 weeks after your original one was supposed to be.
Yeah, so it definitely was a lot of finagling, I think, in terms of just kind of energy levels and intensity. The last couple weeks have been hitting the road pretty hard, but before that, it's just kind of been working on technique and making sure that um, we maintain that level that we were already training at and that foundation of cardio that we already built. So we're not losing it there, but also at the same time, we don't want any diminishing returns where we're overtraining and stuff like that. So it's definitely, I like the way that this camp has gone where it's kind of almost doesn't even feel like I'm in camp
Mhm.
in a way. I just feel I'm enjoying the process, which is it's sometimes, as you know, hard to do when you're in camp back to back that many times. So yeah, it's worked out really well. And I'm also working with the nutritionist, Eric Pena, who just did Dustin Poirier's cut last weekend for that big fight. So that has also been something that is definitely noticeable this time around. I've never worked with anyone like that or had any input on that. So it's definitely a change and a good one at that.
Yeah, and it's a change that a lot of guys seem to be making working with someone, right? Because you only know what you know, and once you start working with these professionals and they start seeing how your body works, how the fuel, changes in your body, how your weight fluctuates with water. I don't want to say that it becomes easy because no weight cut is really easy, but it becomes easier because it's one less thing you have to worry about, right?
Yeah, 100%. And even like knowing how many calories I need to eat every day outside of a cut, like I've never paid attention to that at all.
Mhm.
So I said it when I interviewed with Fight Card a few weeks ago, and I still feel the same. Like, in order to be a successful professional MMA fighter, you have to live like a pro athlete far before your pro career even starts. And if you can make those adjustments early before it matters really, those good habits are going to carry on. And I feel like especially this camp, I've really paid focus to like recovery and making sure that I'm taking care of my body at most and not kind of just winging it in the gym and dealing with the fallout later.
And you have been, even though you have had some MMA fights fall through, right? You have been pretty active on the jiu-jitsu and combat jiu-jitsu scene. So talk me through first, how jiu-jitsu tournaments or super fights and then combat jiu-jitsu just kind of keeps you fresh, and then what the draw is that we're starting to see with a lot more MMA fighters taking up these, jiu-jitsu super fights. Why do you think that's happening?
Yeah, so in terms of just the draw of it, I think originally it struck me as a good opportunity during COVID, right? Not many fights were going on, and jujitsu kind of presented itself as a way to still stay active and get cage time without really having the opportunity or the I guess the risk of fighting, because during these travel times, you're probably going to have to travel without a coach. And I don't really want to fight without my coach cornering me. So jujitsu kind of is a loophole where you can still compete, still get in the cage, still feel that intensity, but not much repercussion. So that was definitely the allure to me
Okay.
originally. But then, things picked up quite quickly. I had maybe 3 or 4 out there and then got a title shot. And then you're just kind of consumed in that little pocket of martial arts. And, there's a whole another set of competitors out there who have no interest in competing in MMA, but only interest in competing in jiu-jitsu and combat jiu-jitsu. So it was kind of nice to spend a little time in that world, but I'm definitely more interested in the MMA world, I think. And yeah, like to your point, a lot of people seem to be fluctuating and hopping back and forth. I think grappling is at an all-time high right now in terms of popularity. You got Chael Show, Submission Underground, and you have all these EBI things and combat jiu-jitsu worlds. And I think people are just starting to kind of understand how beautiful martial art jiu-jitsu is, and with all the new the new things people are employing out there, it's definitely more fan friendly than it ever has been, at least in my opinion. And I think that's showing with MMA guys kind of jumping in the scene and getting in there.
Yeah, and I think, in my opinion, the no-gi jiu-jitsu tournaments and the who's number ones or the fight to wins and things like that, the no-gi seems to be more of a fan favorite for people who don't necessarily understand all the ins and outs of jiu-jitsu and the intricacies of it, just because the gi can be a little bit slower, right? Gi
Right.
matches can still be very exciting, but you don't see the high flying, explosive matches that you see a lot of times in no gi. So with that being said, do you prefer no gi more than gi training? Because I know a lot of guys are like, you should only do one if you're fighting MMA, or you should do both if you're fighting any MMA. So I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, and my jiu-jitsu coach will tell you that I am completely partial to no-gi than I am to gi. Um, but it's necessary, right? I think I was just in the gi yesterday. It was my first time in quite a while. Because, like you said, when you're training for fights, it's hard to get in there and train gi. Sometimes the connect just like isn't there. And as an amateur fighter who still works a 9 to 5, right? It's a matter of like I need to give something up in order to do gi practice, and I don't know if I am able to give something up in order to do it. I don't know if I need to cut striking off to do gi, especially when I have a fight coming up. But I think it's important, right? Like in terms of just control and basics and not giving any space. I think there's certain things that gi brings to the table that are just you can't find in no gi in terms of learning and making sure that you don't plateau. So they definitely hold their own uses for sure. And I think after this fight, I'm gonna hop back in and get some more gi time because I want my belt color to change a little bit. I want that purple belt.
Yeah, I like them both, right? I'm not partial to one or the other. I always say that my gi jiu-jitsu helps my escapes and my no gi jiu-jitsu helps my attacks, and I kind of think of it that way. And it's been working so far. Now, talking about strictly MMA, you have this fight coming up on the 24th. Um, just want to hear your thoughts on how you think it's going to go. I know you've put in, basically two camps back to back, not the same opponent, but at this level and really at any level, your opponent could change at the drop of a hat. So less guys are
Yeah.
training specifically for their opponent anyway. How do you feel about this fight coming up?
Yeah, I think that's kind of been the the theme of this last 2 camps. My coach Danny Summers is really like kind of laid into, you're not just training for this fight, you're training for your career, and the jumps that we make are just gonna. It's not it's not only attached to this fight; it's attached to the rest of your fights too. So, the opponent I was supposed to fight in June was really, really, really wrestling heavy. So we worked a lot on our striking, and this guy is really striking heavy. So we're getting back to our grappling, and to have um, seen kind of the growths and jumps we made in the last camp in terms of takedown defense and in terms of keeping things standing and just being crisp on our feet have now carried over, and they feel more cemented in my skill set. So now I can get back to my base of grappling and not have to worry as much about the holes in my striking or the holes in my clinch work or takedown defense. So I definitely come into this fight with a lot of confidence in that area. Slade has an extensive Muay Thai background, and I have an extensive jiu-jitsu and wrestling background. So it's that age-old question of striker versus grappler. I think that we hook up in the middle of the cage, and he looks to clinch me up, and I get a takedown and hopefully finish it early. I don't think that he can hang with me on the ground. He's definitely a dangerous striker, and he is good in the clinch. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight, and I'm excited to get in there and showcase what we've been putting in work on.
Awesome, man. We're excited to see it. You were saying before we started recording, show's basically sold out. So, let everybody know how they can watch you on the 24th.
Yeah, so if you go to fightcard.net, they have the pay-per-view already available for ordering. They did sell out pretty quick. We are the main event of a 20-fight card. So it's a big show. It's the first one in the Chicagoland area post-pandemic. So there's definitely going to be a lot of eyes on this. This is for a super lightweight championship. So it'll be a 5-round fight. And yeah, I mean, not only is our fight going to be worth the price of admission, but there's the best talent that the Midwest has to offer just sprinkled across this card. So it's definitely worth the $25 of pay-per-view admission.
Awesome, brother. We're looking forward to it. Super excited for this fight. Before I let you go, just wanted to give you a chance, shout out whoever's been, helping you out and, putting in the work with you along this fight.
Yeah, big shout out to both of my gyms, Faro Academy, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Elmhurst, and Intercept MMA in Forest Park. I mean, all the hours that we've put in the past 3 camps with no fight. I'm looking forward to showing the results of that, the fruits of that labor. And then, shout out to my sponsors, MMA T Co. There's almost, I can't even remember all of them at the same time, but, sponsors, family members, friends. It's hard. It's hard for people to kind of truly understand the sacrifices that mixed martial artists go through training every day. We don't get to go out and have fun as much as we used to or would like to. So, just the sacrifices made for those friends and families and people who stay in touch and reach out. Just super thankful for the support system that I have behind me, and can't wait for it to all pay off next weekend.
Awesome, Tyler. Like I said, we're looking forward to it. Good luck. That'll be Fight Card Entertainment, July 24th. Tyler Funky Bones Jones. I'm sorry. Funky Bones Jones. Yeah. Good luck. We'll see you on the other side.